I'm glad to present the Harmonica Jam by Schell.
All right, I will spare you the harmonica today because we got stuff to do, and I know everyone is augmented reality out and wanted to go home. I know that they said I would talk about the game Apocalypse today, but I've talked about that before, and you can hear about that online. I thought I'd use this opportunity instead to talk about augmented reality because I thought there are some things I've been thinking about with it, and I wanted to kind of share them today. So I've been looking at augmented reality a long time, so since AR Toolkit came out. And one of the things that sometimes makes me sad is how, you know, AR Toolkit came out, what, 10 years ago? And people were like, hey man, have you seen this? It's going to be giant. I'm like, what is it? What's going to be giant? They're like, this AR thing. I'm like, well, what do you do? They're like, well, you hold it up and there's a 3D model. I'm like, and what do you do? And they're like, you tilt it. I'm like, oh, you mean like I can flip it around? Well, no, you can tilt it kind of a certain number of degrees before it disappears. I'm like, tilting, and that's going to be giant? They're like, yeah, it's going to be giant. I'm like, can I just tilt cubes? No, you could tilt other things. Like what can I tilt? You could like tilt a windmill, I guess. I'm like, oh, okay, so you're telling me tilting at windmills is going to be giant. I'm starting to wonder about this proposition, right? And it's 10 years later, and a lot of what we do, sadly, is still tilting. And we've been getting away from tilting a little bit. Hey, we've got phones now. And there's something about that photograph that just makes me intensely sad. I don't know if I can put my finger on it. But it's one of the things that really excited me here. There's so many people breaking away from that and starting to, and I wanted to talk more about that because it's time to go bigger with this, because augmented reality really is going to be one of the things that fundamentally defines the 21st century. But in order to think about it, we have to think about like what we're actually talking about, right? And what we're talking about is seeing. And what does seeing actually mean? We don't think about seeing very much, right? And as I started thinking about this for this presentation, this movie kept coming back to me. I don't know if people have seen it. It's called X, The Man with the X-Ray Eyes, a Roger Corman classic from 1963. And like the ideas from this just kind of kept coming to me. So this will form kind of the backbone of what I'm going to talk about today. The movie X, The Man with the X-Ray Eyes opens very disturbingly. As soon as the film starts, you're confronted with this eyeball, which just sits there for a full minute with like no audio or text or anything. You're just you and this eyeball, as if they want you to kind of notice that, you know, we don't look at the eyeball very much. I mean, the eyeball is the most intimate thing we have, right? It's our primary gateway to most of the information we engage with in the world. But in a lot of ways, it's very alien to us. It's very creepy. It's very weird. And so it's a good idea for us to like look at the eyeball and think about that a little bit, because we should think about seeing. And the eyeball is crazy, man. There's stuff in there we just are just finding out about now, right? Everyone hears about, oh, rods and cones, and the cones have 3 colors. Did you know that some people have 4 colors for the cones? There's people who they just discovered this recently, are tetrachromats. It's only women. Some women have a gene where they have a 4th cone, which allows them to see colors the rest of us are blind to. And we just found this out recently. There's also sensors they just found in the back of the retina that do nothing but detect blue light. And what that does is that regulates our daily clock and everything that goes with that, and blue light, because the sky is blue. And that's why people get depressed in the winter. And we're just figuring out that now, all just here in the eyeball. So there's a lot of mysteries with eyes and vision. Like, what the hell's going on there, right? That's screwed up. And when you look at light, because all the eyes do is they just detect light. But like we talk about light, we talk about visible light like it's something special. There's nothing special about visible light. It's just like all the other radiation. It's just a certain range of frequencies of the other radiation. But there's only part of it we can see. And the fact that we see these like separate colors, like red and orange, like we see boundaries on that spectrum, they don't exist. That's an artifact of the way our eye is constructed. And our eye is constructed that way because plants are green and blood is red and the sky is blue. And so those are things that are important for us to see. And so like a lot of this is mysterious. And part of the reason, like people wonder, well, why don't we see infrared? It'd be so useful. You could see animals coming at you in the dark, and infrared's like right next to our visible light. Why don't we see that? We don't see it because we're glowing infrared. Our eyes are full of it. We'd be blinded by the light that's constantly bouncing around in our eyes. But like we don't see any of it. It's invisible to us. And let's see, I hope we got the sound right here, and we'll see what Dr. Xavier. So the story of X-Man with the X-ray eyes is about Dr. Xavier, a man for whom regular eyes aren't good enough.
Sam, we are virtually blind, all of us. You tell me that my eyes are perfect. Well, they're not. I'm blind to all but 1/10 of the universe.
My dear friend, only the gods see everything.
My dear doctor, I'm closing in on the gods.
Yeah, no hubris there in Dr. Xavier. I'm sure nothing will go horribly wrong. Right? But there's a lot of stuff that we don't see. And so we want augmentation, right? We've been augmenting our vision a long time. Eyeglasses are old. We had eyeglasses since like 1200. That's a long time. And eyeglasses are interesting, right? Because it's not just like some neutral thing. Eyeglasses change people, right? They change the way we see a person. In some fundamental way, there's something about a person who wants to augment their vision and see better and see differently that we have kind of a funny feeling about, right? You know. Sure, glasses make you smart. How do glasses make you smart? How does that have to do with anything? It's something about wanting to see. I want to see more is what it says. And in fact, I think the stereotype of tape on the glasses, I mean, that just takes it one step further. That's a person who wants to see and doesn't care how they're seen, which is why I think it's such an important stereotype for us. I mean, even Superman, right? That's the primary difference between Superman and Clark Kent, just the glasses. Now, I was at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I was looking at a collection of samurai helmets, and I found this one was amazing, 18th century helmet, built-in eyeglasses, built into the helmet, and I couldn't decide if that guy was coming at me on the battlefield. I don't know how I'd feel about that. Is it because he's a nerd and I can take him down, or does he have like supervision, right? Because back in the day, when not very many people were literate, a lot of people believed that glasses were magic glass that allowed you to turn those symbols on the page into knowledge, because you'd see smart people put on their glasses to go read, oh, that must be how they do it. If I could only get those glasses, then I'd understand those symbols. And the bigger the glasses, the more intensely crazy it makes you seem. The more you want to see, the crazier you are. Anyway, so there's something of a stigma associated with wanting to improve your vision. And let's see what Dr. X has to say.
James, why do you want to see so much?
Well, why do you want to go on breathing? To stay alive. It's much the same thing with me. I'm curious, intensely curious.
No, I mean the purpose. How can you use your new vision?
That's a good question for all of us. How will we use our new vision, since that's what we're trying to create, a new kind of vision? And like there's a lot of answers, right? I mean, one of them is, oh, I want to see the world. I want to see the things in the world. And a lot of it we do with labeling. We're going to see things and we're going to label them. We'll label this restaurant and we'll label these trees and those things. And I always like this story Richard Feynman told about when he was a boy and he was out in the forest with his uncle, and he saw this bird and he said, Uncle, what's that bird called? And his uncle said, you know, you can know the name of a bird in all the languages of the world, but when you're finished, you'll know absolutely nothing whatever about the bird. So let's look at the bird and see what it's doing. That's what counts. I learned very early the difference between knowing the name of something and knowing something. So could it be that all this business of labeling everything is just a waste of time. It's not real knowledge. It's just kind of bogus knowledge. Well, that's one point of view. But then there's another point of view that's very different. The designer, Robin Williams, not the actor, the designer, Robin Williams, she wrote this book, the Non-Designer's Design Book, where she talks about this experience she had where she got a book all about trees. And she was flipping through it, and had names of trees. And she saw the Joshua tree, and she said, what a weird-looking tree. Wow, I'd never heard of this tree before. It's weird. Boy, I hope I see one of those one day. And she went outside and realized they were all over her neighborhood. And they'd been there for years, but she'd never noticed them. But the label made her see it. So in some ways, labels make us not see. In some ways, they make us see. It's very perplexing. But the idea that we could go into nature and have labels, when I was a boy, I was a wicked nerd, right? And when I'd go on vacation, I'd spend the day studying H.A. Ray's book, The Stars, A New Way to See Them. So then at night, I could go out and find the constellations. And it was a lot of work. I had to really augment my knowledge and imagination and try and find them by studying this book over and over. But now, just take out your iPhone and hold it up, and you can see them. It's amazing. It's just right there. You can just, instead of having to learn it and augment your knowledge, you can just see it. And that's very exciting. And very soon, I'm sure, we're going to have things where it's yeah, here's a bunch of animals. Bing, 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 bing. It's just, the labels will come up, right? And you'll know. And for everything in nature, these things are very distinguishable. You see a bunch of leaves and it's just leaves, but it's something special once you kind of know what they all are and they all start to have a personality. And we'll be able to have that, not through hard book learning, but just by seeing. I used to feel like such an idiot when I was a kid with a microscope. I'd look in the microscope and there was stuff and I wanted to be so smart and it's like a bunch of goo and I couldn't figure any of it out. But how hard would it be to make an app that just when you look in the microscope, it just frickin' labels everything for you? And it would be a very different kind of experience. And one thing I got really obsessed with, I remember, we lived near a lake, and you look at the water, and the water's pretty, but I learned about this thing. All you do is take a milk carton, cut the bottom off, put plastic wrap over it in a rubber band, and you stick it into the water and look down in there, and it's amazing. You just are down in there with the animals in the water. You can see them. You're going into this hidden world. And that's so much of, I think, what people are interested in seeing, finding what's hidden. Like the dark matter. Where the hell is it? Right? We talk and talk and talk about it. Wouldn't it be cool if we could just see it? It's in the dark part. Probably. Okay. I bought these when I was a kid. Man, I was so excited. X-ray specs, a new way to see, right? Man, you're going to put them on, and you're going to see. Who here ever tried X-ray specs? Right? They actually kind of work. It's weird. You hold your hand up to the light, and you can kind of see bones. Do you know how it works? Anyone know what's in there? What makes it work? It's a feather. It's all it is a damn feather, and the feather diffuses the light in a certain way that kind of gives it this look that's really cool. And funny, the same guy who invented X-ray specs invented sea monkeys. Well, okay, God invented sea monkeys. But God never thought to sell them for $1.25 in the mail. And if you're wondering why they don't look like that, you've never looked at them through X-ray specs. Anyway, X-rays are cool, right? Being able to look inside, because looking out at the world is cool, but looking at people, that's really cool, right? Because there's a lot going on, right? But it's one thing to look at people kind of physically, but really, so much of what we're obsessed with is looking at people in other ways, in social ways. That's been the big explosion of Facebook, is it's kind of new ways to connect and look at people. And there's a lot of ways to look at people that we're not totally comfortable with, right? You look at somebody and there they are, and you zoom in and there's their eye, right? We don't always look so close at the eye, like I was saying. But then you zoom in even more, right? Ooh, there's an eyelash. We think of eyelashes being so smooth and nice, and they're all rough and cruddy. It's kind of weird, right? And you zoom in more and you see how rough it is, and then you're like, what is that on the end of the eyelash? Well, what that is a colony of Demodex follicularum that we all have living in our eyelashes. It's real, it's not imaginary. They're really, really there. Can we get closer? Yeah, right? They're there, they eat, they excrete, they reproduce, they lay eggs. We all have them. They're not imaginary, they're real. They're really there, we just don't see them. They're invisible. Let's get a close-up. Yeah, baby, there's one of them right there. Your little friends right there. They say that of all the cells in the body, it's some huge percentage of them don't belong to us. Anyway, let's go back up here where we like it better. Some things can stay hidden, and that's fine. All right, so Dr. X, he starts trying out these eye drops. He puts them in his eye, and they start to give him X-ray vision. And he's excited about it, but he can't quite control it. It comes, it goes. And so Dr. X goes to a party to kind of relax because he keeps getting headaches from these eye drops.
Headache? Headache?
No, it's just my eyes.
That's creepy. But it's an interesting question about why we wear clothes, right? Because clothes they're really interesting. Well, because I'm cold. Well, sometimes, right? But is there ever, if that was the argument, there'd be some temperature where it's like, honey, what are you going to wear today? Actually, it's kind of warm. Nothing, I figure. So it's not that you're cold. It's because we don't want to be naked. There's things about us we don't want to share. There's information we don't want to be seen, right? Partly for ourselves, but partly for other people. They don't, because that's one of the weird things. There's people you really want to see naked, and there's people you really don't. Which would imply that somewhere right in the middle there's somebody who it's like, yeah, whatever, you can be naked. Anyway. But thinking about this is interesting because so many of our social customs are all about hiding information from other people. And when we're talking about changing the way we see, we're going to upset that. We're going to change that. So here's another clip with Dr. X and his girlfriend.
You're quite lovely.
Cute.
Matter of fact, you're very attractive.
Well, one drink certainly makes you a different man.
Well, you could say I'm really seeing you for the first time. And that's the most interesting birthmark you have above the third rib on your left side.
But how do you know that? You can see me.
That's right. You can see me, right? People don't want to be seen, right? Especially when it's not a fair exchange, right? When people can see you and you can't see them, that's a very uncomfortable feeling. So this is relevant because we're going to have facial tracking. Oh, not facial recognition like that. That's terrible. We're going to have things like Recognizer, right? Which we saw last night. I mean, Recognizer is so cool. It's like, yeah, you hold it up and it tracks somebody's face and it like looks up their online profile. And they picked a name, Recognizer, which is not scary in the least, right? There's nothing intimidating. Where have I heard that name before, Recognizer? Anyway. But this is what's going to happen. Faces are so easily encoded. Every face in the world is going to be mapped to every person in the world, right? So it's very easy. You're going to be on the street. You'll pull out your little AR thing if you're not wearing your goggles already, and it's just going to be able to identify who's who and tell you what about them. And you'll see houses, and we already know this. We know houses, and then we'll know license plates and things, and it's like, yeah, here's who lives here, and here's owns what car, and here's how old they are because they put their birthday on Facebook, and blah, 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 blah. It's a lot of information, which suddenly, here's the thing. We didn't know we were naked. Turns out we're freaking naked, right? And, but there's some information I think is really useful, right? You got cars driving around. I would love to be able to know, yeah, safe driver, okay, safe driving record. Jerks on the cell phone, that's good to know. Oh my God, that guy's got 5 DUIs. Right? That would be really useful. And you could do it, It would be possible. And it's a question, should this information be public or private? Which is best? Which is secret? We don't know yet. What about in school? We're getting to the point where we can track brain activity pretty well with little external devices. Pretty soon it'll be even easier, I think, to do that. I mean, imagine a teacher can just like track all this stuff that's going on, right? Imagine a school where I don't need to give you a curriculum. All I need to do is track how hard are you thinking. Because if you're thinking hard about something enough of the time, Maybe that's good enough. Well, maybe. But having everybody read your thoughts is a little bit of a creepy idea, but it is one of the things we're going to be able to see. And there are going to be so many things we're going to be able to see, it's going to be a real question for us, right? There's so much data. What do you want to see? What do you want to know about these people? You're going to be able to pick from all these different things, and it's going to start to get overwhelming. We're going to start to have to decide, what am I going to see, and how am I going to decide, right? Because like I was saying, just like Adam and Eve, who suddenly, they ate the apple, and they're like, oh my God, we're naked. We've been naked this whole time. That's where we are now. The data's all out there. We just don't know. We're going to put it together. Rather, you guys are going to put it together, and then everybody is going to be like, oh my God, I'm freaking naked. All this information is out about me. Everyone's going to know this information, which I had security through obscurity, but not anymore. Not anymore. Dr. X can sympathize.
Sometimes, when I look up, and I see all those people above me pressing down upon me, the whole of humanity, and at night, while they sleep, I close my eyes, and I can still see through my own eyelids. Oh, Lord, I'd give anything to have dark.
That's depressing, right? So that's why we got to figure out, what's the right information, because too much information makes everyone just want it all to go away. So things don't go too well for Dr. X. He accidentally kills somebody, and then he's on the run from the law because there's a problem. No one believes he has X-ray vision. He does the experiments, and he says, I have X-ray vision. They're like, you're crazy. We're pulling your funding. Get out of here. And then this accident happens, and he ends up as a carny, like as a psychic, and runs into kind of an interesting conversation.
A man that could really see through things, he wouldn't be here. No, he wouldn't. He'd be something big, powerful. He'd be something special.
What would he be?
He'd know secrets. Secrets he could use. A hold on people, that's what he would have. Something to make them listen to him.
Is that what you think?
Maybe he could help keep people from hurting each other.
How?
By telling everybody everything. No secrets. What's anybody got to fight about?
Same things they've always fought about. Ideas, thoughts, differences.
I'd stop them. If I had your power, I'd stop them. I'd make them do things my way, or I'd hurt them all if I had your trick.
Hey, it's fun making this AR stuff. Sorry about the police state, everybody. Just kind of turned out that way. So it's a tough question. No secrets, is that better? Or way worse? Someone better figure it out. In the 1700s, this guy, Jeremy Bentham, came up with this idea for a prison. He's like, I've invented a prison, only needs one guard. I call it the panopticon. The guard lives in the central tower, and he's got binoculars, and he can see everybody, but they don't know when he's looking at them. They could be looked at any time, and they don't know when. And so they're all going to have good behavior, because they'll never know when I'm looking. No one wants to live in the panopticon, I don't think. Well, things get worse and worse and worse for Dr. X. He tries to go to Vegas and get a bunch of money, and they catch him, and he's on the run from the law. And he ends up, after a car accident, he finds his way into this tent revival.
Are you a sinner? Do you wish to be saved? Saved? No. I've come to tell you what I see. There are great darknesses, farther than time itself. And beyond the darkness, a light that glows and changes. And in the center of the universe, the eye that sees us all.
So it sucks to be Dr. X, right? The eye drops have turned his eyes all black, and no one believes anything he says, and now he sees through the whole universe, and he sees God, and it's just him and God looking back at him, and he's totally alone in it. And I don't want to spoil the ending for you, but It's not happy. And in fact, I find a very interesting parallel if you look at ancient Greek mythology, the story of Cassandra. Cassandra was given the gift of the ability to see the future by Apollo, but also then she upset Apollo and he cursed her. She'd see the future, but no one would ever believe her. So she was completely alone in her vision. And I have to wonder if the guys who wrote the Dr. X movie had seen the Cassandra sculpture, which has the eyes black. They're made of like black onyx, because the two of them just have so much in common. And part of the reason this story keeps coming up is because I think it's fundamental to the human condition that we're the only ones who see what we see, and we can't completely share it with other people. And that's very depressing sometimes. But what's exciting is we start to have the power to overcome that. Because we talk about our relationship with reality, and there's us and there's reality as if we're just looking out at it, but we don't just look at it. We look out at it through our imagination. We don't just see things. Our combination of knowledge and imagination changes how we see the world. So when we learn things, we see the world differently. And when we augment, we talk about augmented reality. That's not what we're augmenting, right? The augmentation happens here. It's like an overlay on our imagination. It's like we're strapping something onto our imagination so that it can be bigger and better and different. So that's the way I like to think about this, the ability to see, through the eyes of others. What is the, do I have my movie clip? Yes, I do. So this is a different movie. People may have seen it. They Live. Have people seen this movie? A lot of people in this audience have. It's about a lot of things. But a guy finds a magic pair of glasses that let him see how the world really is. Right? So, the whole point of art, right, is to get people to see things from a different point of view. How can there be a more powerful art form than one that actually changes what you see? What would it be like to create AR experiences that let you see things from the point of view of different Nobel laureates? Or, I don't know, what does Einstein see when he sees a sunbeam coming through the window? How would Martin Luther King see 9/11? How does Emily Dickinson see a butterfly, right? How does Tesla see a lightning bolt? I would just like to be able to see like this guy. Thank you very much. What does this guy see? Man. Anyway, so that's what's really exciting to me when I think about the future of augmented reality. And I'm excited to be here. Here we are, ARE 2010. What is ARE 2020 going to be like, right? We're going to build some stuff we don't even know. We don't even know what it's going to be. And people talk about how the internet's changed things. The internet has fundamentally changed things because it's allowed us to think with shared memories. We're now able to have collective memory and think using that shared memory. And what augmented reality lets us now do is to see with shared eyes. Thanks.